Why am I comparing an $1,100 microphone to a $300 microphone? That is a good question. See, in reality, I should be comparing the Rode NT1 to the lower end version of the c414, or the more affordable version, that being the AKG c214. But I have my own reasons why, partly because I could not find a c214. But we are also going to do an in-depth look at the differences between a c414 and a 214. This may further your quest into what you prefer in terms of the microphone that you are looking for. But you see, the AKG c414 is my favorite condenser microphone to use in the studio. I'm part of a music technology program here at my university, so I get access to the c414s in the studio. Bar none, my favorite condensers to record with. I have used it for kick, guitar, piano, bass, rooms, overhead, cabinets, strings, orchestra, rooms. They do everything. Wow. And they do everything really, really well. Yeah, some of the nicest sounds that I've ever gotten from a condenser. Now this is my personal Rode NT1, and I have recorded everything that I just mentioned using the Rode NT1, and I've done it in a myriad of different environments. I've used it in field recordings, I've used it in live gigs, I've used it in home studios, I've used it in garages, I've used it in a literal mob. It's been my main condenser for years, and it's also one of my favorite microphones. So my personal reason why I'm comparing these two, my favorite condenser to use in a professional studio versus my personal condenser that I know and love, specifically know the sound profile of very well. So yeah, let me self-indulge in this, please. So we're starting with the AKG c414 with comparison to the c214, which isn't here right now. I wrote this all down because the 414 has a lot of different specs to it. It's very high tech for a microphone. For one thing, it has 9 polar patterns. It has 9 polar patterns. 5 principal polar patterns, those being omni, cardioid, hypercardioid, figure of 8, and wide cardioid. And then it has an in-between stage between these two. So it has 5 principal and 4 in between. So you have variably any sound. So the way that you actually, let's see if I can film this. Here is how you switch to the intermediate ones. When you hit the arrow, 2 of them light up. You can actually see when the 2 light up that you are in between, like for say hypercardioid and cardioid, or hypercardioid and figure of 8. That's the 2 of them together. In addition to that, it has a variable pad on the back and a variable cut on the back. You can reduce the dB level of this microphone by 6 dB, 12 dB, and 18 dB. In addition to the pad, it also has a low cut that can be set to different frequencies. It can do 0 Hertz, it can do 40 Hertz, 80 Hertz, and 160 Hertz. It has a peak monitoring system where if it feels the microphone is picking up too loud of a peak, it will just flash a light to let you know. It has a lock mode, so all these different moving parts of the microphone can stay in place and nothing is changed during a recording session. And it also has a really low noise floor, so it's a very quiet microphone to use in noisy places. I should say that that's true in general for condensers. A dynamic microphone is pretty much always going to be quieter. In addition, these come with a lot of extra things. They come with a hard case, a pop filter, a windscreen, and a shock mount, which unfortunately we do not have because this is not my microphone, and the owner of this microphone did not have it with him. So what are the differences between the C214 and the C414? Well, the good news is the C214, same capsule. So that means they share a lot of tonal characteristics with each other. They have very similar frequency responses. Some say that the 214 is a little bit harsh on the high end and maybe it does not have enough bass. And some say that the 414 is a little bit more balanced and has a more well-rounded low end. But the C214 also has a 20 dB pad on it and a regular low cut. Now the C414 has just a little bit of an edge and essentially all the other categories with a lot of variability. For example, sound pressure or loudness levels. This can handle just a little bit more loudness. And you're going to see that pattern repeated when you look at the spec sheets on both of these microphones. In general, the c414 is just going to be that much higher up in the numbers in most, including the price. One thing about this c414, there are two submodels. There is the XLS, which is this one, and the XL2. So what is the difference between those two? Basically vocals. The c414 XL2 has a slight presence boost in the high end, which is going to give the vocals a little bit more of an airy feeling, and in general boosts the frequencies that tailor to vocalists. I prefer the XLS. I find it's more versatile. It can do vocals just fine with the frequency response that it has now. I can use it for things like bass drum, and I can use it for all these different low-end things, and it does crazy well. So the Rode NT1, completely different ballgame. It's a microphone that is trying to do something different. I've said it time and time again, there are a couple things that the Rode NT1 is trying to accomplish, specifically a really flat frequency response. This means it's not necessarily enhancing any specific frequency. It's trying to be as honest as possible with your sound, so when you get it into the box or into your software, you can boost where you see fit. It's trying to be a really realistic interpretation of sounds that are being recorded. It's also known for having a really quiet self noise. That's one thing it boasts all the time. Rode says it's one of the quietest microphones in the world, if not the quietest. So more about the actual physical features of this microphone. It's super simple. It has one polar pattern, that being cardioid. It also has absolutely no cuts. It has absolutely no pads. It is a microphone doing a microphone's thing. It's also noted for having a really smooth, detailed mid-range. I can tell you it has a really nice, almost compression-like response to vocalists whenever you sing with them, record them singing. Some of the more spec-driven features, it has an internal shock mount to further make it a really quiet microphone. Has a 1-inch gold plate just like the 414 does, and again the self noise. The thing about the Rode NT1, it does simple really well. I'm going to give you one example related to the build quality. This thing is made out of nickel-plated aluminum that is anti-corrosive. It is then coated in ceramic, military-grade ceramic, in order to make it scratch resistant. And basically the only thing that's worn over the several years that I've had this thing is the grill. The grill's dented in some places where it's fallen, and the paint on the grill is starting to scratch off in some places. But it's built extremely well. And also it has a 10-year warranty, so if anything goes wrong, they got you covered. I don't think it's wrong to compare these two microphones. I think the Rode NT1 could be very fairly compared to the c414 in terms of sound quality, but that's for you to decide. As we always do on these mic comparisons, if you've been on this channel before, we're going to do a vocalist with a track, we're going to do a vocalist a cappella, then we're going to do a blind guitar test, and you can make your decision on what you prefer from those means. So without further ado, I have a really talented Indian pop singer today named Kanishk Seth. He is originally from New Delhi. He specializes in pop classical Indian fusion. He was nominated for Global Indian Music Academy Awards in 2015, and I believe he signed to Sony. So this might be my first copyright claim. I guess we'll find out. So let's get started.
Yeah. सहरा दी है नींदें आने, जली है रखी है आँच है जो चूल्हों की, तपी सी रखी है यादें सुबह की आस में, रातें साथ जगती थी रोज इंतजार में, चांद भी कुतरती थी बाकी है सारी ख्वाबों की।
Friends, I hope you enjoyed. That's the end of it. If you are interested in more microphone comparisons, I've got plenty more. I'll list the playlist above. And yes, please like and subscribe, and please leave any questions in the comments down below. I'll see you there. Goodbye.